Hey, what's up, y'all? You tuned into another episode of Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. Actually, I'm just recording this video for IG or for Facebook too. But if you are about to watch this episode, and especially if you're going to watch on YouTube, I like to just be upfront, transparent, and vulnerable with this stuff. Yo, so this camera that I'm talking to you on right now, it did not record our entire 52-minute conversation. But don't worry, because I got it on audio, and then we got it on Drew's camera. So I'm going to post this video anyway, and you're not going to be able to see me throughout the full conversation. But the part that you will be able to see is Drew's angle the whole time. But don't let that discourage you from hearing an amazing, awesome conversation of the impact that a father has on a son from my guy, Andrew Golden, man. So y'all stay tuned, man. We do this, bloopers and all, man. Everything. We ain't after perfection, baby. We after execution. This interview's still going up.
Come on, execution.
I'm claiming it for the highest rated views, too. With one angle. One camera angle. Let's go, baby. Man, we do this, boy. Ain't nothing about to stop this. That's the goal. Nope. I can't even see you. This light killing my eyes. Hey, what's up, good people? You are tuned into another episode of Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. It's your guy, Aaron. And if you are familiar with this space, then there's no guessing where I am. But for those of you that don't know, now you know, we are on the campus of the Tennessee State University in our student center. Most of y'all know, some of y'all know, man, TSU is my alma mater, class of 2010, big blue country all day long, every day. But I got my guy Andrew Golden here, and we're going to talk about what else but fatherhood, right? Right. And so Andrew, we wanted to have it no other way than to come and to host this interview and to have this conversation in the student center, man. And so we're gonna get into it in a second, man. Drew, you good?
I'm good, man.
You feeling good?
Yes, sir.
Hey, that boy got that radio voice. It's only space for one of us. Hey, but before I move forward, I know some of you all looking at the scarf like, what's good, man? Some of you all know my guy, Verbs, over at Fatherwell Co. He's always dropping the product, and when another father is doing something, man, I always want to push it. I always want to promote it as much as I can. I actually pay for this too, and so I just wanted to rock it. If you want to get your scarf or some of the other gear that you've seen me wear around fatherhood, I don't currently sell gear right now, but I know a dad that does, and his name is Verbs. So check out Fatherwell Co. And I'll probably drop his link or something at the bottom of this podcast so y'all can go and check it out. But dope look scarf here, man. It's cold in Nashville.
It is. That hog is out.
It is. What's good though,
What's
bro?
going on, man?
All right, let's jump into it, man. Drew, so I invited you on, man, because I wanted to do something in like this episode and some future episodes that really address fatherhood from the perspective of the impact of a father. And so one thing that we can make clear now, or I'll pose the question, do you have children?
No.
All right, so Drew has no kids.
No kids.
Yet.
Yeah, basically.
No, yeah. No kids yet, right? And so it's like, well, what qualifies you to have this conversation? And the thing that for me qualifies you and I to sit here and to have the conversation on the podcast is that I think the impact of a father resonates with all of us. And so, you know, that's kind of what I want to address today, man, and just talk about the highs, the lows of fatherhood as you've experienced it that impacts you today, just as a young man, period. And then maybe how you see that like transitioning or impacting you if you have the desire to become a father, which we're going to get to.
Absolutely, man.
All right, man. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do. I'm a chill. Yo, these chairs, they're huge. Just if you're watching the video, like, we trying to figure out how to
angle it right.
I think we got our angles right.
Yeah.
But, you know, get comfortable, man. We'll move around, whatever. But, yeah, so, I mean, tell us a little bit about you. What you got going on? What's your background?
Yeah. Man, first of all, I'm honored to be here with you.
Honor status.
Crazy enough. Honor status, for sure. Crazy enough, your most recent interview, you mentioned that you wanted LeBron on the show at some point in time. I'm not 6'8", but that's my twin, so you can say and label this one that LeBron is on your show.
Bro.
See, I just can't stand up.
See, I was gassing him up before we even started this interview. I said, they're going to watch this video and be like, okay, he got him another little chocolate drop on the show. And I said, I know you're not a daddy yet, but somebody going to be choosing.
Hey,
Don't act up because you know your mama gonna listen to this podcast, bro.
Yo, she be out here looking for me.
Looking for exactly, and that's what any decent mom would do.
Exactly.
That's what any. Hey, but let's go ahead and make that drop though. Brun, if you're watching this, we probably gonna mention LeBron on every podcast moving forward.
Listen.
Until my dream interview of sitting down with LeBron, talking fatherhood comes to pass, man.
Right.
He needs to just have me on the shop.
Basically.
Hit me up, HBO. I'm available.
Right. And ready. And willing.
Yeah. All right, back to Drew. Baby Bron.
Baby Bron. Yeah, man. Born and raised here in Nashville. I'm in school right now, currently at Tennessee State.
Yeah.
Crazy enough, I don't know any of the chants and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm a finance major, computer science minor. I'm also involved in ministry in a few different capacities. So yeah, man.
Yeah, you know what's so funny is that I realized you said you don't know any of the TSU chants and things like that. When you told me, I text you when I pulled up and I was like, bro, where you at? Where you parked? And listen, hey TSU, I'm gonna tell y'all this. If you from TSU and you listening, I'm gonna put you on. I said, bro, where you parked? He texted back, he said, I parked inside of the gates of one of the dorms. I was thinking, bruh, you just mean, he parked at Boyd Hall.
Basically.
But I don't know if that was like your lack of knowledge or you just felt like I didn't know what was up.
It was a little bit of, more so my lack of knowledge. I didn't know the name of the dorm.
Yeah.
But I knew you knew what I would be talking about.
I knew exactly what he was talking about. He said, I parked in the gate. I'm like, bro, just say Boyd. But, okay, you got to contextualize that. We're going to get into fatherhood, but contextualize it because I don't want nobody, like, trying to check you about your TSU status. But give us the backdrop of, like, how you even arrived at TSU because it's a history behind that.
Yeah, it's a crazy history. I actually started out, coming out of high school, I went to UTC first.
University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
In Chattanooga.
Yep.
And that was cool. That was an experience. Went there my freshman year. It was kind of like a last-minute decision. I had some aspirations of doing some other things, but ended up going there with my best friend. Didn't really like the college experience, so to speak, as far as academics are concerned. Felt like I was wasting my time.
Yeah.
Ended up leaving and dropping out of school altogether. Got back in at Nashville State. Went there for about a year and a half, and then I transitioned and transferred to Howard University in D.C. So that was a crazy experience. My first HBCU experience. It was off the chain, for lack of better terms. Financially, it just wasn't a great fit, and they had the huge financial aid scandal and everything, so I was kind of impacted by that.
Oh, you were there when that happened?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw the makings of it on Instagram.
Yeah, I was there when it happened. So ultimately ended up coming back home to Nashville, and that's how I ended up at TSU.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told that backdrop because I wanted to give a little validation, man, to just you from a collegiate perspective. And I know folks at TSU will cut you a little slack once they contextualize. Okay, he been through a process.
Right.
So you at TSU, you focus on academics.
Right.
Yeah, because all of us, we don't have the privilege and the luxury of coming and just completely getting immersed in where you are in your life. Like you got your priorities in order. That's pretty dope, man. Bro, I'm trying to think about like all of those things that you just mentioned, even as you talked about this whole your academic career. In my mind, I was thinking about, man, who was helping you navigate that process, and what could you have benefited from, like, knowing or having in the midst of all of that?
Yeah. Let's see. Man, I had a few different mentors and stuff throughout the process that were kind of helping me throughout. The person who actually took me on my first college visit was one of my mentors. I call him my uncle. His name is Sid, and he drove me and my best friend down to Chat and took us on the tour and everything like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of like my decision making, my mother was very instrumental. And it was more so me actually making the decisions, but just having somebody to talk to through those things. And then so like my decision to actually go to Howard, that was kind of crazy. So like I wasn't one of the students who was like, I have to go to an HBCU.
Yeah.
It wasn't my desire. And so it was in a conversation with one of my mentors, Mr. Terry, and I was talking to him about marriage, right, and what it meant to be a husband, what that looked like for him and his wife. Somehow, some way, we navigated through that conversation and ended up at, good cities to find a quality woman.
Yeah.
And so he named DC, right? He was like, "Nah, you need to move to DC because they have a lot of single women there, a lot of single Black successful women." And so that's how I ended up, man, doing some research.
And that's how Howard got on your radar.
That's how Howard got on my radar.
By finding the city where you were most likely
to find a wife. Crazy. I know.
How much trouble did you find in DC? Okay, your mama listening. So
she listens. Let's go.
Let's
That's a private conversation.
Let's ease right back out of it. Man, you know what's so interesting as I hear that I was setting it up for, you know, to get more context to see if where my theory was going to lead me. But you talked about mom being helpful in helping you navigate the decision process. Then you got is it Sid, Mr. Sid? Oh, Sid. You got Sid, and what's my other guy name?
Terry.
Sid and Terry, and both of them were kind of like mentors. Yeah, so it's so interesting, man. A lot of so I grew up. It's funny. My mom listens to this podcast all the time. She's like, "You never talk about your daddy on the podcast." I really don't. Yeah, y'all gonna have to pay me a little bit more for that.
Right.
No. No, but you know, I grew up with both my parents, my mom and dad in the house. But my mom was like really influential in helping me navigate a lot of those tough decisions, even with the presence of my dad being there. And it was on the campus of TSU that I really started to experience the true impact of a mentor. And so these guys who were in your life, were they in your life like, was this a high school thing? Was this a programmatic thing because you was involved in something, one thing or the next? So how did that come about?
Actually, so I met both of them through a family friend. So my mother was real good friends with a lady named Miss Elisa.
Yeah.
And I've known Miss Elisa since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah.
And so these relationships were formed through her. Said, actually, I met him in church back when I was going to Mount Zion.
Yeah.
I used to see him all the time. And so, like, he would take me to the gym when I was in high school. I mean, like, waking up at 4:30 in the morning and going to the gym, and things of that nature. So,
you know, I know a little about that.
Yeah. It was rough. I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how I met Sid. And then it's ironic that they're all just mutual friends. Sid, Terry, Yika, some other people.
Word.
So that's how those relationships kind of came about.
Yeah. And so, and they could. Collectively, they've had a collective impact in your life. Man, let's get into it, man. What's the dynamic like? And it's funny, like, you know, I have preliminary conversations with folks all the time. You know, I want to know, you know, we got to talk about what we're gonna talk about as it relates to, like, you know, what's the direction of this conversation, right? But I've intentionally, like, man, not like pushed all of those buttons and things with you, because I kind of wanted to experience the context and information, like, in real time. So, man, what's your relationship? If anybody knows you, they know that you and mom,
right, super tight.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they know the place that you hold her or whatever. But I can't really speak to contextually, like, you know, what role does your dad play in your life? Does he play a role in your life? So I'm kind of looking for you to, man, kind of just like share your perspective on fatherhood from the perspective of how your dad has impacted you, and, you know, and how you respond to that.
So to answer your question, how our relationship is now is shaky in a sense where, you know, we don't communicate every day. He's here in Nashville.
Okay.
But like, we don't communicate every day. It might be, you know, a week or two that we don't communicate. But then, you know, we will link up from time to time. I'll go and help him out. He grills, you know, and sells barbecue and stuff like that. So I'll help him out every now and then. But I would say that our relationship could be a lot better. Growing up, it wasn't always like that.
Did you grow up with him in the house?
No. So he was there like early years, and then my parents, they got divorced when I was in like preschool or like early elementary school. Yeah. So, you know, for me, it was normal for, you know, a man not to be in the house. You know what I mean? Because they separated very early on. The time that he was there, it was interesting. He worked a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the times that he was actually in the house, he was either asleep or, you know, getting ready for work or whatever the case might be, because he had to be at work early, work long hours. So our dynamic, man, at one point in time when I was young, he was like my hero. Like, I aspired to be just like my pops. I think as I got older and started to kind of look back on some things, that's when the resentment started to set in and things of that nature. And ultimately it kind of got us to where we are now.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Let's take a step back even from the resentment, man, and just I'm interested because I have an understanding of your character, and you someone who I would summarize as, like, you know, strong-willed, determined, you're focused, you're persistent, and then there's a level of diligence that I've seen you display as well. And I'm wondering, like, how much of that comes from either something being present or because of a void. You know what I mean? You know, we see this like certain scenarios often where, like, if mom is out of the house and there's a daughter in the house, then sometimes the daughter has to step up and she may, like, cook and help take care if she has any younger siblings or whatnot. And then the opposite could happen when dad is out of the house and there's a son in the house. And so I'm curious to, like, how that impacted you and even your character to, like, do you feel like you stepped up? Do you feel like you did things because somehow you were the man of the house, or at least in your mind?
I think from a maturity perspective, yeah, like, his absence forced me to grow up a lot sooner than I probably needed to. You know, growing up, like, people would go to parties and stuff like that, and that just wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there was other things that I could be doing to where I wanted to kind of avoid some of those situations. And I think also his absence put me in a position to see a lot of different things, some of which might have been good, some of which probably not so good to see at an early age. But like I said, it grew me up, you know, a lot sooner. Which is probably why you see a lot of the things in my demeanor and stuff like that now. I think a lot of those earlier years kind of shaped that. I think also his absence was bittersweet. Like, I feel like there are qualities and certain experiences that I could have, you know, learned and had with him being present that would have been beneficial. But a lot of opportunities came with his absence, meaning a lot of the mentors and the strong men that were in my life and present, you know, from the time I was young to now, I don't know that, you know, they would have been available or around if he had been there. And so I've kind of been in a unique position to learn and glean from different guys as I've grown up that offer different levels of expertise. And I think that has kind of made me a more rounded individual. Whereas if, you know, Pops had been around, it may have been that I would have gotten one limited perspective versus getting 10 different perspectives.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, man, because I'm wondering, can you have both and? And I think that's a perspective that I would hope to get answered on this platform. Just based on what I just heard, I'm interested to know, like, can a mentor, in your opinion, and based on your experience, ever, like, fulfill that void of fatherhood?
No. At least not in my experience. I would say no. Even at the age that I'm at now, it's like, man, having those people, like, I'm grateful for it. But it's hard, like, when you're missing that, or when you feel like you're missing that love of a father in whatever form or action that takes. I don't know that anybody else can really fill that void. And I think that's why, you know, we often see guys in my position either go one of, you know, several different routes, whether it's the gang route or, you know, whatever the case might be. For me, what that kind of took on as I got older was, you know, wanting to fill that void with, like, being around women. Didn't necessarily mean I was always, you know, being physical, but I don't know, it was comfort in that. But yeah, I don't know that a mentor or anybody for that matter can really fill the void of the absence of, you know, a true biological father.
Yeah. If a mentor can't feel it, do you feel like it was temporarily felt with your like desire to be around like more women?
Yeah, in a moment,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's like a high.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can numb anything,
Yep.
but it's only temporary. At some point, that feeling has to go away, and you know the circumstance or the reality still exists.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, well, how do you navigate through getting true healing, or you know, experiencing true reconciliation, to truly fill that void?
You feel like, because you mentioned resentment earlier, are you still in a place of resentment?
If you had asked me that a couple years ago, I would have said no. But based on how I feel at times,
Based on your right now?
right, I would say it's still present.
So, so resentment has been present,
Yeah.
has been removed, and has surfaced again?
I don't know that it's truly been removed. I
Okay.
think I've tried to convince myself that it was no longer there.
Yeah.
But it shows up in various ways. Like, you know, how I feel sometimes when he calls. I'm like, I know he about to ask for something. You know what I'm saying? Or
Do you just do that stare or you just be like,
basically.
will they hang up before I have to answer?
Right.
Yeah, I got a few of those folks.
That will go unnamed.
Yeah. Duh. They probably listen.
Probably so.
No, I love all y'all. Let me shut up. Keep it going.
Right.
Keep going. Keep talking.
Yeah, man. So it's one of those things where it's like you can't patch it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how can one perform surgery on themselves? Like, nah, you need to go to someone who specializes in performing surgery to really heal those wounds.
So what you talking about? You talking about therapy? You talking about Jesus, God? What you talking
Yeah,
about? Church?
I'm more so talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And that vertical relationship.
Yeah.
I think therapy or church can be a navigator to what you ultimately need or the destination. But for me, yeah, I feel like my healing, total healing, will come through Christ.
Man, what steps? So I'm reading this right. So you don't feel like you have total healing yet. So you talked about restoration or reconciliation a second ago, and you're not fully reconciled.
No.
And the rest of that, so that means that the restoration isn't there as well.
Yeah.
I think that reconciliation happens, and then the reconciliation, restoration is like, let's get this old thing new.
Right.
The reconciliation is let's settle our differences, right? Do you have to like? Oh man, they got this Christmas playing in the background. I do not own the rights to this track. YouTube, do not take my podcast down. This TSU
Right.
playing this out of this bookstore now. That's my song though, bro. I used to be in the marching band at Maplewood, and we used to play that in the Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder if my listeners like when I go off track, because I'm squirrel all day, but let's pull it back in.
It always comes back. That's what matters.
Man, you know the beauty about doing a lot of this, man. I tell my wife all the time, or my wife always say, nobody makes you laugh harder than you. Talking
Right.
about me.
Right.
I entertain myself, man. So I have the privilege of men like yourself allowing me to sit down and be myself and have authentic conversations where, you know, there's vulnerability here, there's transparency here, there's authenticity here. And none of it is forced, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
listen, I show up. If you know me, you know I show up as myself wherever I go, man. So yeah, just getting back on track here. As far as the reconciliation and the restoration, do you believe that it's a place like you have to prepare yourself or prepare your heart and your mind to start the process?
Yes, because you don't know how that's actually going to play out. It can happen in different ways, and it's like, man, you can experience the disappointment.
Yep.
a lot of the hurt can resurface in a way that you weren't ready for.
Yep.
So yeah, and you have to also be in a place where you're prepared to forgive that person, and be transparent about how what they might have did or didn't do affected you, being able to effectively articulate that to that person, and then be ready for the response. And I had got to that place, during the time when I was at Howard, tried to have that conversation and navigate through some of that. And it didn't go the way that, I wanted it to, or was kind of hoping that it would. Which ultimately, that's where I would say I kind of feel like I had experienced some of that, and kind of alleviated some of the resentment. It was temporary. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. You have a time frame on when you can see things, when you feel like you could be in the space to, like, something? I'm good for right now. I got the mental space to engage and see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you have that, like, working internally, or?
It works internally. Yeah. I feel like I'm there now, quite frankly.
But who has to initiate?
Probably myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I would have to initiate that. Yeah. For sure.
Man, so you didn't grow up with your dad in the house, but you grew up knowing who your dad was, and you had some other strong male figures in your life. Man, I'm curious to know, how do you think your dad's presence, or even his characteristics or personality, shows up in you?
Yeah, I look a lot like him,
Ooh.
Which is crazy. But it depends on who you ask, though.
Yeah.
Like, some people, my mom's friends, if you ask them, they'll be like, oh, you look just like your mother.
Yeah.
And then if you ask my dad's friends, they'll say I look like him.
What's your dad's name?
Melvin. Yeah.
Y'all see Melvin's boy right here? That's little Melvin's boy.
Little Mel.
The boy look just like little Mel.
Basically.
Hey, little Mel. They call you little Mel.
Nah, in Memphis, they call me Little Skeet.
Little Skeet? What that mean?
Well, his name is Big Skeet.
Big Skeet. Oh, okay. So, Big Skeet, Little Skeet.
Yeah.
Big Mel, Little Mel.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Okay. So you look like Big Skeet.
Yeah. We're not gonna give context on how he got that name.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But
no assumptions here.
No
just
assumptions.
Big Skeet. That's all I know him. They named him in church.
Basically. But in terms of characteristics, man, like I said, I think his work ethic I have, for sure.
I see you starting with the positives, because I want the negatives too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Praise God.
But go on with the answer. I got his work ethic. He disciplined.
Right. Hard worker, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Man, in terms of flaws.
What's the part of your dad that shows up in you that you like, man, I can't.
We'll have to circle back to that. I have to think about that.
Bet if I ask your mom, she'll be like, pow, pow, pow.
Probably so. Or my sisters. My sisters would be a better.
Yeah.
I will say sometimes when I answer the phone when they call, they be like, oh my gosh, you sound just like that. Like, don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't say that. I sound like me.
Yeah. Why? I don't know why. I don't know if that's a son thing, a man thing.
Yeah.
We hate to be compared to. As soon as somebody tell me I look like my brother or my daddy, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And I love them both, but maybe it's just a desire to be an individual.
Right.
Pretty
much.
You lying though. Let me tell you how you lying. Let me tell y'all how I just called him in the lie. I just set him up. He don't even know it. I know y'all think I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Say you want to be an individual. Say he don't want to be compared to nobody. The boy sits down in the seat. Before I ask my first question,
and immediately
he's like, "Yeah, they say I look like LeBron. They say I look like LeBron. I'm just."
I was trying to offer you some fulfillment.
I appreciate it.
You know what I mean?
Okay, you did it for me.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Man.
I'll take that.
For you.
But the irony is, bro, is that I'm told all the time I look like LeBron.
Really,
bro? When I put my it's when I have my hat on too.
Yeah,
I get it all the time.
That's because you have the height, though.
It ain't even a hype, bro. I be sitting down. I be on the airplane, in the airport, at Chick-fil-A, wherever, bro. And some people, I'm thinking about who listening to this. Some people really think I look like LeBron, man. But that's my guy. I don't mind.
So you got the height and the swag. So
that's what it is.
You got the little drip, man.
My wife say that we built the same. I'm like, so you checking out his bill? Okay. Okay.
Basically.
So you checking out LeBron's bill? Okay.
Right.
I ain't even mad at you.
I ain't even mad.
No, that's cool, man. You know what's so interesting, man? I always tell people, man. You know these conversations, man. It's all about like elevating the position of fatherhood. Mm-hmm. And it's not about being slanderous or anything like that, and it's not about focusing on the negative, man. I think that you can talk about every dynamic around fatherhood and still honor fatherhood at the same time, because what I hope is that we continue to give context to the complexities of fatherhood in general, even from the perspective of a son. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was 18. I had just graduated from high school and making that transition into college, when I had the revelation of my parents in general, but especially my parents in general. And I realized that they were just like me. Mm-hmm. They weren't born parents. You know what I mean? They were two individuals that were making the best decisions that they can with the resources and the information that they had to raise their child. Mm-hmm. And then I had a revelation, about my dad. I was like, man, I bet we probably just alike. Because in the revelation, it was about my dad, but if I look at it on the macro level, it was really about just human beings in general. So we have way more in common with one another than we have in differences. Mm-hmm. And bringing that down to the micro level and comparing that to my relationship and my dynamic with my dad, I'm realizing how much more we have in common than we have different, and it helps you to contextualize things and to appreciate things, even if they didn't work out or go in the direction or were favorable like you would have hoped. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big part of like why I even wanted to sit down with you. Yes, you don't have any children yet, and I keep using yet, but I think that your perspective as a son is valuable. Mm-hmm. What could you say to guys out there, man, that I know you're not like fully there where you desire to be, but what could you speak to guys that are maybe in your situation, man, that may not be on the best terms with their dads right now? Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest things that I would probably regret is to show up to his funeral and having not worked out everything that needed to be worked out.
Yeah.
And I think too, like there's still room for that relationship even now. Like because I've met 50-year-olds who still carry that void, and it's like, well, they don't have the opportunity to pursue that relationship anymore. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so, man, regardless of how early or late it is, in terms of the absence, if, possible, try to pursue that relationship, even if, you feel like, okay, well, this is my pops, he's older, should be the mature one to try to pursue that or make that work. It's like, that's irrelevant in terms of age or maturity, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth going after and worth healing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's when I talk to young guys that may be in that position, that's the one thing that I hear the most. Mm-hmm. I was about to do my Memphis impersonation or interpretation. Man, that man, that man, he can come to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times, forgive me, Memphis, because I butchered that, man.
It's appropriate, especially for where we are.
We are
right
at TSU, baby Memphis.
Exactly.
You got to have on polo boots and
Memphis
polo
2.0.
shirts to qualify to even be here.
You hear me?
Man. And jump.
Right.
No, but a lot of guys do feel like because of age, because your father is older than you, then he should be the one that comes to you. And this is like no disrespect to anybody's father or any son listening to this, but if you have the gift of wisdom, and you have the revelation that you have the ability to go and reconcile with your father to have a restored relationship, and your father doesn't have that wisdom, or at least he hadn't shown the sign of it, then I think it's upon you to go and make that decision. And to take that action and to take the necessary steps to restore the relationship, because I'm not a believer that age equates to wisdom, just like speech doesn't equate to intelligence. And a lot of times we see, because somebody speaks well, that it means they're intelligent. Those two are not directly correlated, and we think that because somebody's older that they're wise, and those two are not directly correlated as well. And so I'm appreciative to, even like as I'm engaging, I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm also I have a perspective on even the demeanor and how you're speaking, what you've spoken today. And man, I'm encouraged that you have the heart posture, and I even think the wisdom to like go and approach your dad when you decide that you're ready. And based on the words, I hope that when you listen back to this, based on the words that you've spoken, man, you'll be like, yo, I need to go ahead and make this happen.
Yeah.
They blazing this music in the background,
really
man. Christmas caroling. Hey, so question.
Before you ask, I have an answer to your last question in terms of how.
I thought you answered my last question.
No, the prior one.
Oh, the one before the last one?
Right.
In between the third one?
Right.
Let's go.
I think one of the flaws that shows up in myself that I also see in him is the lack or the inability to articulate feelings all the time.
Yeah.
Effectively. Like, I suppress them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
intentionally.
Sometimes,
or
but
you just
most of the times,
conditioned.
it's a conditional thing.
Yeah.
I'm learning now more so to open up, but I think part of it comes with like trust, and then part of it sometimes just comes with like not being able to articulate exactly what it is that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I would say that's like one of the main things. I'm like, dang, like I see, some people like Dwight, for instance, who's able to just let it flow. I just be like, yo, that's dope, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah, but and you attribute that to your father.
Because I see that in him.
Yeah.
He can't do it, or it's difficult for him to do it. And it took me having a conversation with him one day to understand why. And I asked him about the dynamic between him and his father, who I never had the opportunity to meet. And when he explained what that dynamic was like, then it made more sense. Yep. And I was able to, extend a lot more grace to, how he kind of approaches me, or why he does a lot of the things that he does. It makes a lot more sense to understand kind of what he grew up witnessing and going through and things of that nature. So I would say, too, to answer the question after that in terms of, what I would tell some of these other guys is sometimes you don't know what your father might have had to deal with growing up. And a person can't give you what they have never had, right? So if you can, get context and try to understand why that person might be the way that they are, or why they might approach certain things the way that they do, because that doesn't alleviate the pain or how it affects you, but it offers perspective as to why they might do things the way that they do.
That's good, man. That boy wise, man. You're saying a lot of the things that I think, and it's about managing your own expectations.
Basically.
Because you get to a point where it's no longer about pointing the finger at somebody's fault. It's like, how am I going to let what happened to me or what didn't happen to me impact me on a day like today? Right. I got a board meeting today. I got an exam today in your case. You know what I mean? I got a date right now. Right. And I'm still letting X, Y, and Z hold me captive, So that's good. That's good advice. Bro, you have any desires to become a father? If so, let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay, where's she at?
Hey, I'm trying to figure out myself. I'm trying to find her myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We are on the hunt, being spirit-led.
Yeah.
So
what type of? I'm generally talking to men on the show that are already dads, that are already fathers, and I always say, well, what do you What do you wish you would have known before you became a father?
Mm-hmm.
So I ask you, although you're not a father, what are you glad that you know now before you become a father?
One, I've learned to be consistent. Mm-hmm. Like even in the relationship with my nephew and my nieces, although they're not here in Nashville, but my nephew especially, the importance of just showing up and following through with your word. I think a lot of the experiences that I've had and the pain that I've experienced with some of the things that my dad did or didn't do, it has kind of shaped my approach to future fatherhood. So that's one of the main things, is showing up and being consistent. And then also the need of a father to provide identity to your kids.
Yeah.
I think that's huge too. So
yeah. Boy, I sat up because I was about to start preaching, man, because the identity, fathers establish the identities,
exactly,
especially of their sons, but of their daughters too, man.
Exactly.
Fathers establish identity. And I like to think that we can say these things in boldness, and I'm looking at the audience, right? But we can say these things in boldness and in confidence without disrespecting or disregarding the position of motherhood as well.
Right.
Because there are some things that uniquely only mothers will be able to do for their sons and their daughters. And there are some things that uniquely fathers are designed to do for their daughters and for their sons.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer that a father establishes the identity, in this case, of his son. But we serve a God that's good, that can redeem the time, that can fill a lot of voids and all that jazz. So if y'all want to hear me talk more God, then tune into the prayer call.
Right. More prayer call.
First Tuesday of every month. And that's what you get to do when you do your own podcast. Plug yourself. Yeah, Drew, man, I'm excited for you. I'm excited about like what's next. I mean, I don't foresee you becoming a father in the next day or three. The next day or three, but man, whatever the future holds for you, from what I know about you now and what I've known about you, I feel like you're gonna be well on your way.
I appreciate it, man.
Man, before we started the interview, and as you was driving over here, and we was like doing all our prep talk, what is something that was on your mind that you said, I hope I get to say this, or this is a perspective that I want to bring?
Yeah. I'll wrap it up in the story.
Go for it.
About 2 or 3 summers ago, when I inevitably had to leave Howard and come home, went to a little situation in North Carolina. It's like a ministry thing. And part of that was an inner healing session at the end of the 2 weeks, right? So they pretty much pair you up with the pastor or whatever case might be. They take you through some different processes, ultimately hoping that you, at the end of it, experience some inner healing, and things of that nature. So for me, that was crazy because, at a certain point
was it crazy or was it amazing?
It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to do that because a lot of us, words and the etymology of words are really important
Hold on,
to me.
Say that word again?
The etymology.
Okay.
It's just the root of it, bro.
All right.
ACT word.
All right.
But the etymology of words, they matter, and how we use them and when we use them matter. And I notice more often than not, a lot of us, we make the common mistake of calling something crazy when it's actually amazing.
Yeah.
And amazing.
Teach me, Stop it. Teach us.
Stop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just if it's amazing, let it be amazing. Because
Right.
crazy and amazing are not the same. And so we've been conditioned to call things that are amazing and giving credit where it's due to something that's crazy.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
At a certain point in the session, they basically invite the Holy Spirit in, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, all right, tell the Holy Spirit or invite the Holy Spirit to give you a memory. So for me, my eyes were closed, and that memory was
So the Holy Spirit is a third party of the Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I know everybody listening to it ain't believers. Invite the Holy Spirit in. So what time was his slot on the agenda? It ain't like that. It's a presence. It's the presence of God that was left by Jesus as he departed.
Come on.
This gift I leave to you.
Come on, Axe.
All right, go ahead.
So the memory that it was clear, like I was immersed in this space. I was young on the football field. I used to play for Una.
Yeah.
And so I was.
Una?
Yeah,
Okay.
Una Bears. And so it looked as if I was at practice, right? And there was like this fence around the field where all of the players' dads would stand. Mm-hmm. And I remember in that particular memory, my pops wasn't there. He often didn't attend my practices. My mother would. And I remember just looking like, man, like all these other dads are here. Like, where's my pops? Why is he not here? And so, at a certain point, once you have the memory, they're like, okay, cool. Now invite Jesus into that memory, right? So we do that, and man, like I just started like bawling, like I couldn't control it. And they're like, like Drew, like what do you see? Like what is Jesus doing? Or what is he saying? And like I remember just being like, man, like he's out there around that fence, and he's looking at all the other dads, basically saying like, that's my son, like that's my boy. And man, the feeling and the emotions that I felt in that moment was crazy, because what he was communicating to me was, all the while when you were focusing on the lack of your father's presence, I was there the entire time.
Yeah.
Through everything, cheering you on, you know what I'm saying, like letting people know like that's my boy. So I would say, to a lot of the guys that might be kind of experiencing the same thing, or the lack of their father's physical presence, understand that you're not alone, you're not in isolation. Like God is there with you through everything, even though you might not feel him or physically see his presence. He's there cheering you on, looking at everybody around like, that's my boy, or that's my girl.
Yeah. And that's when you say, amen.
Amen.
Amen. It is so.
It is so.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Golden.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate
man.
you coming through, man.
Yes,
this is long overdue, per usual. If I hadn't had a conversation with you, it's long overdue. Yeah. So you're going to always get that, man. I'm always appreciative when men like Andrew come to the platform and share his perspective, his story, in a vulnerable, authentic way. And you're going to hear this conversation just like it was recorded. Background noise and all.
Christmas music.
Did you see my guy? If y'all watching the video, my guy kept walking by here. I hate when people do that.
Right.
Trying to be seen.
Right.
And he gets right here and just
stops.
stops. You peeped that?
I did.
Bro, keep it moving, bro. Just get on your IG story and record a video of yourself.
Basically.
This ain't that.
Right. This ain't that.
All right, guys. It's been real. I'm your guy, Aaron. You've been listening to Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. Yo, I already told y'all, if you want one of these nice little fancy scarves, Fatherhood is never out of style. Check out my guy Verbs at Fatherwell Co. Fatherwell Co. C-O. Check out the podcast on Stitcher, Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor, all of that jazz. Of course, you can check out the video on YouTube. Y'all, I need y'all to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I need you all to share the video. And to subscribe, download, all of that jazz. We're trying to grow the platform. Y'all want me to interview LeBron or not, man? Let's make this happen. Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. It's been real. Peace. Yeah. Oh, that was your love.
Yeah.
Love. I feel it. Bron. Let's skeet.
Let's skeet.
It's a wrap, man.
Cool.